Joe Bros, I am psyched up.
And welcome to another edition of the Nerdy Agent Podcast Business Tip of the Week.
Business tip.
We're going to talk about business and tips.
That was good.
This week, we're going to talk about how you can use the MLS data to support your sellers. Who's going to take it away to start?
Go ahead.
I mean, one big thing we've talked about with this is just making sure you understand how to use the back end of your MLS.
So you put a house on the market, you list a house, and then where do you find it?
So there's a little spot where you can click on your active listings. In the drop-down menu, there's a spot called Hit Counters on the North Star MLS, which will tell you how many client views you have, how many you have in the past 14 days, how many favorites that you have.
How many portals you're on?
Yeah, total portals. Yep.
Matters.
Exactly. So understanding like how many favorites to portals that you maybe should consider. I've even thought about doing a spreadsheet sometime in the future to help us understand like at certain days on market for certain price points in certain areas, what we should expect so we can kind of compare to others based on maybe how the market is. Or
we should definitely have that data.
Jason will do that in the future. But
Jason, the VA.
The VA.
That was a Jason Derulo bit, if anyone didn't catch that.
I like it. But using that back part of our MLS to do that, we include that on our weekly updates that we send to sellers, as well as Zillow data, and then a little blurb about how we think things are going.
I was going to say it's helpful for two reasons. One, the hit counters as you're doing more listings are huge because they give you a lot of perspective, right? So like if you do 10 listings, you're like, oh shoot, this one hit 2,000 portals. This is going to be a sweet listing. Like it's going to go fast. I feel good about it. This one hits, like I had a condo that hit 60 portals.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just letting you know, like I don't have high expectations for how fast this will move because there's only so many buyers looking for this type of property right now. So it changes the way that I communicate with my seller clients up front because I get a lot of information quickly about how wide the buyer pool is and how active they are by the favorites.
And by the way, for those that don't know, the hit counters are pulling in the portal views and all that stuff. It's just pulling in from auto searches that a buyer has set up with a buyer's agent. The other cool thing is if they check the box for reverse prospecting, which I usually do. I don't love getting the emails, but I do like it if the agent reaches out if I have a client who favorited it.
Yep.
And so you can actually go on the reverse prospecting section on our MLS and you can see if there's a client that has, or an agent that has the box checked and their client favorited it, I can see it says a heart next to the agent's name with a phone number. So I can text or call that agent and say, hey, your client favorited this property. Like, have you thought about showing it or like where are you guys at? And there's actually a little ID number too, which is super nifty. So you can match the ID to the buyer, assuming you have 50 auto searches going or whatever, you can make sure you're talking about the right person.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing with that that's cool is it actually shows how many homes fit their portal criteria. And so like if you see an agent that has a client that favored it but has 4,000 homes in their criteria, it's like, okay, they're listing for all of Minneapolis and St. Paul. They're pretty wide. But if they like have 4 hits, it's like, oh, they favored this and there's only 4 houses that are on their portal right now. Like this is a pretty sweet fit and they're at a tight criteria. So that's a big difference. What I do is usually for opens that first weekend, I'll compare who has got actual showings going on that first weekend versus who doesn't that has the favorites. And if there's an agent that has a favorite on it but is not scheduled a showing, that's when I'll try to reach out the first weekend and say, hey, I got an open on Saturday. I see your client likes this. Send them on through.
That's brilliant.
And then on Monday afterwards, that's the other time when I kind of hit those reverse prospecting the Monday after. If you don't sell the house the first weekend, that's where you have to really get active and say, everyone that saw it, follow up, right? Like, hey, we're still in the market, want to get back with you. And anyone that didn't see it, if they didn't respond to your first text, just say, hey, we're still in the market. You see you got the favorite on there. Let's get you through it.
The only other thing that I had on here was reverse prospecting. The heart, the favorites is really nice, but you can also pull all of their emails. And so we always send a complete blast to every single agent that has someone set up with that search.
Yes.
Just in case maybe the client wasn't super active, just missed it. And so you email them, maybe they see it, maybe it ends up being a right fit for them.
One more thing that's kind of related, but not exactly in MLS would be Market View Broker is a super cool app that we have access to. If you don't, it's through Showing Time, now owned by Zillow, where we can pull down like, hey, I'm in X city. Who are the top 20 agents who have had buyers in X city? And those get included in that initial email because maybe they have a client who just started looking or doesn't want to do an auto search or whatever, or they don't have the reverse prospecting on and we can't see them.
Lives in a house, but if the right house came up.
Yeah, exactly. So then we hit them with that same email saying, hey, you're a top agent in the area. Wondering if you have anybody that would be a fit for this.
I suppose if we're talking about MLS data, we kind of got to get into InfoSparks a little bit too.
We did a whole InfoSparks podcast.
I know, but MLS data for your sellers. At every listing presentation we have, we typically give them a rundown on median days on market and month supply, so they can at least get a rough idea in their zip code for their type of house, have some expectation on what that's going to look like.
Yep. The only other thing I do for my clients when I'm going through this is I think Zillow is the widest net of client interest that exists in the marketplace. And the beautiful thing about Zillow is they actually show how many views you've got and how many favorites you have on Zillow as well. I tell people the Zillow favorites don't usually translate into like showings, because that could just be random people just clicking on Zillow that say, your house is cute, favorite. But the ratio of favorites to views is really important in terms of how desirable your listing is. So like if you hit, it's like 5% or more in terms of that ratio of 5% of the people that look at that house, click the heart on it. That's usually a really good sign from what I've seen historically, where like if you get that number up to like 6 to 10%, that house is going to be just gangbusters, because everyone's looking at it going like, this house is so cute, I want to go see it. This house is so cute, I want to go see it. But when that number's low, and I've had listings on all the different sides of that, it tends to mean your showings are going to be way down, just because most people are looking at it and being like, nah, this house is kind of boring, I'm not that interested. So that's the last metric that I look at.
That's all we have this week on the Nerdy Agent Business Tip of the Week.
Business tips.
Hope you liked our business tips.